Can I ask you, both companies, do you consider loot boxes to be an ethical feature of your games?
Well, first, we don't call them loot boxes. I think that was
whatever term you wish to apply to them. Do you consider them ethical?
So what we look at as surprise mechanics.
Hi there! To celebrate Electronic Arts' successful rebranding of loot boxes, I am thrilled to present on this show exclusively your very first look at EA's brand new corporate mascot. Introducing the Surprise Mechanic! Surprise! And now, this guff. We're talking about streaming game services in part today, as well as subscription fees and ownership issues. And what we'll be talking about is quasi-predicated on the idea that in countries like the US, the broadband infrastructure isn't completely fucked, that archaic ISPs are not strangling people's connections, and that threats to things like net neutrality won't completely tank ideas like Stadia. But before we go any further, we do have to accept that this idea of cloud streaming games does need the internet to be, you know, good. And it's not, is it? Fuck you, Comcast. I know I'm not the only one with serious concerns about Stadia and the incoming wave of video game cloud streaming attempts that will no doubt factor heavily into the upcoming next generation of systems. Google's Stadia console promises 4K 60fps directly streamed gameplay, provided, of course, you pay them for the Pro tier. Otherwise, you're stuck at 1080p. While this machine is taking the lion's share of press attention, it's not pegged to be the sole distributor of ethereal gameplay. Microsoft is promoting xCloud, a similar service planned to play a significant role in its next console, currently codenamed Scarlet. The concept of streaming a game directly into your home without physical products or downloads is, at its core, a tempting idea. After all, television and music long ago embraced streaming. Why not video games now the technological climate is more primed for it? Well, one major cause for concern is the simple fact that this is the game industry, and the game industry is fucking awful. Let's face it, the idea of streaming is tempting, but game companies have already spotted the real reason to adopt cloud gaming: those delicious subscription fees. As noted, Google is already offering premium tiers for Stadia, while other game publishers have been dabbling in perpetually priced products for years and years, as they try to revitalize all of the money-grabbing fun of an MMO without doing the legwork required to make an MMO. Aside from the usual oversaturation of monetization that has plagued too many so-called AAA video games, more and more companies seem interested in taking money off you in exchange for simply existing. Sony has been in on the experiment with PlayStation Now, offering subscribed access to mostly older games. Microsoft, not to be outdone on the money-making front, has actually come out with the best offer so far. Its $10 a month Game Pass, offering unlimited downloads on a vast quantity of titles, including a majority of brand new releases. And of course, all three major platform holders, Nintendo included, lock basic online pay features behind a paywall. And just to keep on theme, Nintendo locks cloud saving under a paywall. But not for every single game, because Nintendo always has to Nintendo. The so-called Big Three have their subscription ducks in a row, but third parties are interested too, because of course they are. They're game publishers, they smell blood, they salivate instinctively. Ubisoft embarrassed itself at E3 with the reveal of Uplay Pass, basically the Game Pass but more expensive with less to offer. EA obviously has a subscription service and has done for years, often pushing it onto people with the promise of early access to brand new games, while Square Enix has quite recently voiced its own interest. And if more publishers decide to offer their own bespoke services, well, we can expect more universal programs like the Game Pass to only diminish in their universality over time as content gets portioned off and gated behind ever more bespoke third-party subscription services. Ubisoft has already confirmed Uplay Pass for Google Stadia, meaning we're staring down the barrel of a gun made from fuck, because already, before Stadia is anywhere close to store shelves, we've been told there are subscriptions within subscriptions. Not only will Stadia itself itself offer a pro tier, but the publishers selling their games on it have carte blanche to do the same. And while this is already in effect on a small scale with things like EA Access being available on consoles, the widespread increasing interest in subscriptions from publishers threatens to go too far and too heavy with the concept. Because look at what the AAA game industry does to any emerging trend or new business model. It poisons them so dramatically, the poisonous publishers end up in front of parliamentary committees having to explain to the public what they've bloody done.
I'm the surprise mechanic!
A more comprehensive program like the Xbox Game Pass is a pretty sweet deal. Massive access to games for a tenner, and it's offered by the platform holder itself, which naturally widens the pool of titles available. I've long since had an interest in the idea of a Netflix for video games. Theoretically, it would be convenient and bring the industry up to date with fellow entertainment mediums. But I've been covering the mainstream game business for too long to trust any of this will go well. Game corporations are just too greedy to embrace subscription-based cloud gaming without carving it up into their own personal fiefdoms. And I fear we'll reach a point where we're paying every publisher a continual fee to access their games, just making account after account after account. And who knows what the disparity in quality will be from publisher to publisher. In a world where we've got accounts with every single publisher, I certainly imagine there will be some security-based chaos when a number of these companies inevitably fuck up with your personal info.
Hello, Bethesda.
A future that extreme may be a ways off. Likely physical copies and direct downloads will still be sold for many years to come, and the games on Stadia will be offering themselves as direct purchases. But we're already in a world where Netflix's library has diminished so individual TV and movie studios can sign you up to their own bullshit. Daredevil doesn't get another season on Netflix because Disney is erecting its own paywall. And then there's HBO, which always felt it was above it all and offers its own bespoke service too. Obviously, game publishers will want in on the lucrative subscription model. They have done ever since they all tried to copy World of Warcraft that time. Subscription fees make companies a lot of fucking money, and often for some very underhanded reasons. Because of the passive role a customer plays in subscription, people often underestimate exactly how much they're paying out each month for a number of convenient services. One study suggests that 84% of American people vastly underestimate exactly how much they're spending. Since there are so many subscriptions now and people are often encouraged to sign up for free trials and then forget about them, that they have no idea exactly what they're spending all their money on. Companies make a lot of money off of these forgotten subscriptions as well. In fact, it's become such an issue that... Whoa, fuck off! Fucking auto-playing videos on news websites. Well, I won't be using that one for a source. Anyway, the situation with forgotten subscriptions has become enough of a problem that there is an entire cottage industry of services that track subscriptions for you. Apps like Truebill and Trim keep an eye on your accounts to check for your recurring outgoings. The psychological success of the subscription model mirrors in some ways the success of microtransactions in the game industry. The idea of subtle little payments that build up in the background, hoping that you, the customer, will lose track of what you're spending. So you better believe the industry that loves microtransactions will love subscriptions as well. The industry that loves to double, triple, quadruple, quintuple down on all of its excessive monetization. Oh, they're gonna bloody love all this next gen. The fight between Epic Games and Valve has demonstrated that the console wars are back, and this time they don't need consoles. I guess they're just wars now. The platform war is pissing off a lot of people right now, people who have to split their libraries across multiple digital distributors or otherwise stop buying certain games entirely. But I worry we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg right now. As more publishers start seeing themselves as platforms, we could see the fight get fucking ridiculous. Consoles like Stadia may consolidate much of your library, but I expect to see many more publishers become themselves the live services that they've tried to turn their games into. If we haven't done already, I expect we'll see at least one publisher start to say that they're not a publisher, they're a platform. And of course, the other major benefit to the AAA industry is that in a world of cloud games and temporary subscription-based game access, we're hammering the final nail in game ownership's coffin. This is something the industry's dreamed of for generations. Since at least before the PS3 and Xbox 360 came out, corporate swines have tried to argue that they don't sell us games, they sell us licenses, they sell us the right to play the game. Game publishers want to live in a world where they never actually sell their games, they just take cash off you in exchange for letting you play them. This was most blatantly showcased in the industry's battle against second-hand games in the late 2000s, where they decided they were owed money on the sale of used games, likened the market to piracy, and introduced the online pass where second-hand users had to pay a stipend to access certain features. Game publishers are self-entitled little shits. Microsoft tried and failed to cement the idea that publishers still own your games with the Xbox One. Before that system released, it was going to be a gigantic DRM checkpoint, demanding constant online access so it can check every 24 hours to make sure you're not stealing anything, and expecting users to register the games they buy online to restrict what they could do with their own purchases, limiting their ability to share, trade, or sell the things they bought. Microsoft backtracked on all this before the Xbox One even came out because people were fucking furious. But Stadia, xCloud, that brings us closer to what these companies have always wanted, cloaked now under the guise of customer convenience. Corporations always get what they want, in the end. And these corporations want to own everything, regardless of law and practicality and the way selling things actually works. They always have done. They want you on a leash, and they want to control every little aspect of this medium. Subscription services and cloud-based gaming finally give them the permission to live their covetous dream of 100% customer domination, where you don't own the games, but the games sure as shit own you. Maybe if this complete control allowed publishers to cool down on the excessive greed elsewhere, it would be a promising trade-off. But if you think the rise of cloud gaming and premium tiers will steer publishers away from their existing bollocks, you're gonna be very disappointed.
When I do this to old people in the park, it's not murder. I'm surprising their brains with sunlight.
Microtransactions, loot boxes, season passes, DLC, pre-order bonuses, all of this is too lucrative for companies to want to give up. Electronic Arts is in the middle of a legal and political struggle to keep using gambling mechanics in games aimed at kids. That's how committed to exploitative monetization these companies are. So how does that work in a world of streaming games? I, for one, cannot wait to watch Electronic Arts, Ubisoft, or Activision try to market pre-orders for games on Stadia. Oh, they'll do it. Of course they'll do it, but it's going to look so pathetic and grasping when they do. The concept is absurd, reserving a literal non-copy of a game where you don't even need to preload anything because it doesn't download. But in a world where you can now pre-register fucking iPhone games, maybe it won't look all that ludicrous by the time Stadia's out. As for the microtransactions and the gambling and the add-ons, we're already there with that shit, basically owning content for games we don't own. When microtransactions first started being shoveled into $60 games, I created a term for the practice: fee to pay. The idea of a free-to-play game that you nonetheless have to pay to get. With this new generation, however, fee to pay may very well become a literal fucking thing. You could argue it's there already in some cases, where you're continually offering cash to publishers for access to games that make money through your continual offers of cash. The wheels within wheels of perpetual spending may never end. It's the kind of dystopian nightmare that gets Bobby Kotick to sleep like a big saggy baby. Of course, we cannot have any discussion on this without bringing up Archival. This has been an ongoing problem with video games since Atari buried all those copies of E.T. in the desert. The concept of preserving games for cultural reasons is of little interest to major game publishers, since the only culture they're aware of is culture they can exploit or appropriate for money Happy Pride Month. Because of licensing issues, many games end up disappearing from digital platforms altogether. Outrun 2006 was removed from Steam after Sega lost the rights to the Ferrari brand. Deadpool was digitally delisted by Activision after only 6 months, and eventually returned only to be delisted again. Many classic older games will likely never see a digital release to begin with because the rights to them are split across many companies. For example, Capcom made Aliens vs Predator, the beat 'em up, but Sega has the Aliens and Predator license right now, so no awesome AVP brawler for me on the Switch. Fuck my gay life. At least before digital distribution became a thing, there were physical traces of video games to keep a hold of. You might have to go digging in the desert for some of them, but they were there. These days, if the game is digital only, it is always at risk risk of disappearing off the face of the planet forever. This most famously happened to Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, a critically acclaimed game that has been thoroughly unavailable for purchase since 2014. PT is another notorious example, a free game / marketing tool that turned heads with its ingenuity. Unfortunately, because Konami is the fucking worst, they had PT pulled after firing Hideo Kojima and cancelling the game it was promoting, Silent Hills. Nowadays, you can only access a genuine copy of PT if you get a PS4 from eBay with a copy still installed, which can sell for over $1,000. We've lost so many games already due to this industry's routine failure to preserve anything. In fact, most video game preservation and archival is done by enthusiasts. The industry seems to have no interest in its own history. Oh, they will exploit the fuck out of nostalgia for money, but respecting actual history? No, there's no cash in that. Just check out delisted games on Twitter to get an idea of how many games are just disappearing all the time. And this is all before cloud gaming ensures there aren't even copies of games to secure via hardware installation. In a world of streaming titles, how do you get to keep anything? How do you guarantee a game won't get wiped off the face of the planet? You don't. And you can't. And with game publishers not having the best track record when it comes to preserving even the original source code for their products, there's a genuine risk of some games becoming YouTube Let's Play videos only and nothing else. And what the hell happens to your purchase history in this case? Certainly while we still have a la carte purchases, if another comic book game is delisted after a mere 6 months, do we get our cash back? What if it's delisted after 3 years? 5? What's the statute of limitations? There shouldn't really be any, should there? If you paid for something and that thing gets taken away, that is, well, it's like, well, it is stealing, isn't it? That's what actual theft actually is. But of course, publishers wouldn't see it that way, because in their minds, it's still their property. They just revoked your fucking license. Given this industry's historical behaviour, and given the routine delisting of games we see, I'm frankly afraid to purchase anything on a console like Stadia. I certainly wouldn't want to buy any licensed games on it, I'll put it that way. All this is to say, I don't like where this is going, mostly because game companies do like where it's going, and whenever they like it, it's a surefire sign we're about to get fucked. Also, Google being in charge of a game console is just, really, isn't it? Not quite sure I want the company responsible for what YouTube has become in charge of a video game market.
Hit the lever!
Oh, hello there! It's time for a surprise edition of Fuck Konami News! All the news that's fit to make you say, fuck Konami! We haven't done one of these in a while, and that's largely because, well, Konami just sits around with its thumbs up its arsehole these days, doesn't it? Doesn't really do anything of note. But at E3, Konami did reveal Contra Rogue Core? Is that what it's called? Contra something Core. And here's a lovely, juicy bit of intel from that game. There's a cooldown system on the guns, so you can't keep firing. In a Contra game. Well done, Konami. Well fucking done. That's like being punished for kicking the ball too many times in FIFA. Or being punished for gambling too many times in FIFA. It's beyond the pale. Another round of applause, actually. Well done, Konami. Well done. And a sincere one, actually, for Bloodstains Ritual of the Night, which came out and was actually a very successful Kickstarter success story of success. And not only is it the Castlevania game that Konami refused to make, it's also full of little fuck you digs at Konami. I won't spoil any of them, but there's a particular area in the game that just made me grin from ear to ear. It's really good. So Bloodstained is great, Konami can go fuck itself, and that's all of the Fuck Konami news. The problem with this promise of a streaming future, with cloud-based gaming, with subscription services en masse, is that they all require trust. Yes? Yes, they all require trust, and that's something we've talked about on these videos quite a bit before, is that this industry trades so much on customer trust and has done nothing to earn it. That's what hype is. This industry is built on hype. There's so much money that's spent on marketing budgets to get people excited for games, all based on promises. Promises that have been broken by major companies far too many fucking times. There shouldn't be any trust left. In the future, we're going to have to trust video game companies with our entire purchase history. And I don't want to do that. I don't think that's reasonable, because the video game industry has done nothing to show me that my faith will be well placed if I place it with them. They've only ever disappointed. These major fucking corporations have only ever let me down and let millions of people down with broken promises and unfulfilled promises. I just say promises again. It's been a long day. I'm not doing retakes. This is the 7th time I've done this, folks. It's Sunday, the day after fucking, the first day of summer, like that fucking matters, and every single fucker out there with their lawnmowers, constantly, for hours. One of them started, and it began a chain reaction of little lawnmower fuckers ruining my day. Where was I? You know what? It doesn't matter. I've said my piece. The long and the short of it is that I do not trust these companies. And, well, I mean, that's the long and the short of this entire series, isn't it? Anyway, thank God for me and all that.